This book is 100% Charles Darwin approved. Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel, Read Good, Draw Bad, where we love to read really good and draw pretty darn bad. Today we are venturing into the cold, icy wastelands of the Canadian North, deep in the time where much was unexplored and they needed sled dogs to get everywhere. Being from Canada, I know a lot about the cold, harsh winters of Canada, because I'm from Canada. I enjoyed walking to school in shorts in minus 40 degrees Celsius weather, and that was just something you did back then. Now that I'm much older and my blood barely circulates, I'm basically a vampire, so I don't do that anymore. It's too cold. But today's book is about the truth of winter in the North, and we go from the easy living in the sunny hills of America into the dark winter of Canada. Today we are reading one of my favorite books as a young person, The Call of the Wild by Jack London. Before we begin, I'm doing a reading challenge where I'm reading the top 100 books as decided by the Modern Library of the 20th century. You can find a link in the description below. First, a TLDR on this book. This book is about the dog Buck, who's living the easy life in Santa Clara in 1897 in a beautiful, sunny area in California, where he is a family dog and well-loved and really honestly just a king among dogs. However, he is stolen off his front lawn easier than a Canadian SUV is stolen off the driveway, and he is sold off to men who need sled dogs that can be trained to work on a sled in the North. As we follow Buck's journey, he starts off at the easy times while he is in the United States, to the harsh realities of being a working sled dog, to finally a dog that recognizes the call of the wild, of his ancestors and other wild canine animals. The wild call that makes you a true alpha chat of a dog. This book was set during the time period of the Yukon Gold Rush, which took much of the world by storm, sort of like early time Bitcoin. And Jack London had a great familiarity with the North because he spent most of his 20s there working and bumming around and getting to know the people who lived there. And he saw writing and literature as his way out of grueling intensive labor and poverty. And he was right, because people were very interested in what life was like in the Yukon during the Yukon Gold Rush. And two of these stories are the most well known by Canadian and American children, which are Wild Fang and the book we're reading today, Call of the Wild. Now there are three main characters in this book. The first is Buck, who is a St. Bernard Scotch Collie hybrid, and his breed of dog is actually built for both power and speed, which is incredibly important for sled dogs. He excels at adapting to the North compared to some of the other sled dogs he meets along the way, partially because his breed was really meant to be in a colder climate. The second main character of the book is Spitz, who's Buck's antagonist. He is the rival of Buck for the main sled dog of his sled team, and Spitz sees him as an actual threat throughout the entire book. The last main character of the book is John Thornton, who is the only human that Buck respects after he hears the call of the wild. John Thornton saves Buck from near disaster as he is forced to lead a sled of very rich, ill-prepared individuals who work their dogs to near death. The plot of this book is fairly simple, even if the way it is written is not simple, because Jack London writes deeply about the dog's feelings throughout the book. And Buck has a lot of feelings because he goes from being pampered and well loved as a family dog to being treated as a working dog. And during this time, Buck learns the most important law of all, which is the law of club and fang. And I'll just read it to you now. He must master or be mastered, while to show mercy was a weakness. Mercy did not exist in the primordial life. It was misunderstood for fear, and such misunderstandings made for death. Kill or be killed, eat or be eaten was the law, and this mandate down and out of the depths of time. The club is stronger than a dog and needs to be respected out of fear of death. The law of Fang is to never let another dog or human find you in a vulnerable position, otherwise you will be mastered. And that is the essence of the story, because Buck comes in as a dog who's well poised to be a leader of a pack, but he is immediately challenged by Spitz, his arch rival. And this is the way of all sled dogs, which is a leader must keep all the other dogs working and in tandem so that the sled can go forward. A sled dog who is in charge must be somewhat feared. The lesson that Buck learns very quickly is to be superior means to win in life. And to win in life, you have to be better than all of those others around you. and free to do as you want, while others must be mastered under you. And understanding these rules, Buck goes from working for mail carriers who were relatively good masters to working for a rich couple that were not good masters to being saved by John Thornton, who genuinely loves animals. John Thornton loves Buck because he sees a dog who's the prime example of a great working dog who does not deserve to be in the hands of someone who does not know how to use him as a working dog. So John Thornton saves him partially because of his usefulness, but also because John Thornton recognizes that Buck is an animal, is a creature who deserves to be respected just like any human does. Even as we get John Thornton and Buck together as a kind of dynamic duo, man's best friend, you think the story would end there, but it does not, because for Buck, the answer is not about being again with a human that makes him happy, but instead is it about this instinct that has sort of come up within Buck as he's learned how to be a living, working dog in a place where life or death is a decision away in a very, very difficult environment. Back then, they didn't have lots of safety contingencies like we do today. So survival of the fittest really meant if you were fit, you would survive. And as part of Buck's nature, he feels compelled and called by something more than human company. And this is the quote of what it means to hear the call of the wild. He sat by John Thornton's fire, a broad-breasted dog, white-fanged and long-furred. But behind him were the shades of all manner of dogs, half-wolves and wild wolves, urgent and prompting, dreaming with him when he lay down, and dreaming with him and beyond him, and becoming themselves the stuff of dreams. Deep in the forest a call was sounding, and as often as he heard this call, mysteriously thrilling and luring, he felt compelled to turn his back upon the fire and the beaten earth around it, and to plunge into the forest, and on and on. As Buck comes and goes from the settlement where John Thornton is as a prospector, a gold prospector, during one of those times he is away, John Thornton is killed by one of the Aboriginal tribes that are not happy that gold prospectors are in the area. And when Buck returns to find John Thornton is dead, instead of feeling incredible sorrow and feeling that this is one of the huge points of the book, instead Buck sees this as his final chain link to humanity has been cut free, and he is free to finally embrace the full call of the wild, because he was really only staying around out of respect for what John Thornton did for him, saving his life. Buck finally embraces his inner nature and runs with the wolves and runs with wolf packs. He has no reason to be around humans anymore, and he fully embraces the call of the wild, to live in the wild wilderness as he feels he was meant to do, as an alpha dog. Now, on to the review. The one thing you have to understand while reading this book is what is the call of the wild. Jack London is writing a bit of an essay here about what he thinks about the nature of dogs and humans and how they interact, and trying to perhaps insinuate that every creature has a natural form where they aspire to be powerful and in charge. Because once Buck is living the life of a working dog, he finds he has more in common perhaps with wolves than he does with other pets or other kinds of animals. If you've ever read Friedrich Nietzsche, you would know that this book is kind of a reflection of the term will to power. At the start of the book, Buck is happy to just live and enjoy life. He's living his best life. He has no cares in the world. Other people take care of everything. Then, as he goes to being a working dog, he realizes the rule of club and fang, which is that other people will master him, and he will have no defense if he cannot be free or find a way to be master over them. However, once he is in a world where power rules all, he seeks power for himself. Here is a quote about what will to power is from Nietzsche. Do you want a name for this world, a solution for all of its riddles? A light for you, too, you best concealed, strongest, most intrepid, most midnightly men? This world is the will to power, and nothing besides. And you yourselves are also this will to power, and nothing besides. What Buck decides he wants in his life, instead of easy living, because there were perhaps opportunities where he could have had an easy life with John Thornton, is he wants power and freedom. And those two things go hand in hand in the wild north of the Yukon. And he is willing to fight for those things even at the cost of his life. He needs to be powerful to be free. Buck enters multiple life or death battles throughout this book because the idea of just surviving is not good enough. He wants to thrive and also have the power and freedom to do what he wants. Because in the world of the strong and the weak, surviving is not enough. With the law of club and fang, someone will either see you dead or close enough. So when I reread this book for probably the third time, this book really stood out to me how good the writing was, because it had to be, because otherwise the next part of the story might not have been published. Now this book is so short, but the writing is so good and so dense that I really think that everyone would learn a lot or get a lot out of reading this book. It provides a look into the harsh realities of the Yukon gold rush and what it took to survive during times when there are not a lot of safety nets in a very difficult climate. And it also takes a near mystical look at the relationship between human and dog and explores themes like what are animals and what are their thoughts and feelings? How should we treat animals in the day-to-day, and how do animals actually want to live their lives? And how do you create a society where everyone can flourish if the law of club and fang is still very much alive today in the society that we live in? Overall, I highly recommend this book, and I think this has beautiful flowing descriptions of nature and natural places that I think any 12-year-old would love, or people like me who still think like a 12-year-old. Okay, well that's all for my review. I encourage you to go read this book, and I really loved it. Do you have any thoughts about Call of the Wild or any of other Jack London's works? I would love to hear it in the comments below. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe, and you can hit the bell notifications if you want to know the next time I release a new video. Next time, we will be moving to a very different kind of town, an English town, where we will be learning about the lives of two very different sisters in the old wives' tale. Well, that's all for me this week. I hope you have some amazing reading planned, and I hope things are going very, very well for you. As always, stay curious, stay reading.